Hello, my project was on how insecticide can affect the height of plants, and the plants that were studied were llama beans. And you know that insecticide is basically, it protects plants from insects, and the type of insecticide that was used was Seven Dust, and Seven Dust is like a powdered substance that's like, it basically, you powder it on the plant and it's supposed to keep insects from getting on it. Like for example, Japanese beetles, and it's supposed to protect your roses blooms from like getting eaten by those beetles. And basically my hypothesis was that the insecticide would like, the more you put on it, the more that was powdered on it would decrease the rate of, would decrease the height of the llama beans. And basically I got pots, and I have like 4 treatments in total, which was my no Seven Dust, 1 teaspoon of Seven Dust, 1 tablespoon of Seven Dust, 4 tables of Seven Dust, and my none was supposed to be my control that I used to compare with the 4 tablespoons of Seven Dust to get to know if I need to reject the null or not. But anyways, I would redo these 4 treatments every Tuesday, and there were 9 treatments in total, and I had big black pots. I would put 3 in each black pot, and they would be watered every day, but of course they weren't watered over the weekend because the greenhouse was closed. I got the Seven Dust at Lowe's, and I also got a measuring spoon at Dollar General, so I can like, just powder it on there and like just measure it, if the measurements was right. And then by the end of it, I grabbed a ruler and I measured their height by inches to see if it changed or not. But basically, in the poster, I made a graph. It's like a bar graph, and I also have photos in there too, stating like how it also affected the leaves. But yeah, after I did that every Tuesday to make sure the plants were fine, I measured each and every one of the plant's height by inches, and I took the mean of each of the controls, the non-Seven Dust, the 1 teaspoon of Seven Dust, the 1 tablespoon of Seven Dust, and the 4 tablespoons of Seven Dust. I measured them all up, and I added them, each of them all together, and I took the mean averages of all of them, and that's the graph. And it was the 3rd week that I measured them, and by the end, when I tried to get my t-test done, sadly, I couldn't reject the null hypothesis. The null hypothesis was that both of the plants were like, the Seven Dusts didn't really affect the height. Like, it didn't really have no effect. That basically, no matter how much you put, it didn't really affect the plant's height. But even though it didn't really affect the plant's height, I could at least say that it did affect the look of the leaves, because while I was like taking pictures of the plants, I noticed that even the 1 teaspoon of Seven Dust, it was starting to make the plant look a little green, and it started like weighing it down. So it was like leaning a little bit, and it still had the powder stuff on there. I guess if it was outside, it might have blown off, but since it was in the greenhouse, it stayed on there longer. And I did put it on every week, because it would eventually, like, it would go away, but kind of like slowly. But the plants were like yellow. It was not as green as the thing with like no Seven Dust. So that was one side effect that farmers might want to take note, because you don't want your plants looking all nasty and yellow and kind of withered, because it's kind of how the leaves were looking. They were looking pretty sad, because I remember I was watering them, and there was this one girl that saw them, and she said, they look almost dead. Like, what have you been doing to them? And I basically told her I've been putting Seven Dust on it. But, I guess that is the purpose of it, is kind of like to warn, because I know that each insecticide it's for different plants. Like, you need to kind of look out for that and kind of make sure you read the label, because it clearly states like what plants to use. You can't just assume that all insecticide will like work on it and like keep the plants away. Keep the insects away, because sometimes it might affect the plant because it's not made for that plant. I know for Seven Dust, I read the label and it says it's not for llama beans. It's for roses, and there's different plants that's not for. I guess what made me motivated to use Seven Dust is because my great aunt uses it, and she pours it on her roses, and it made me think of her, and I just got curious to see how it affected the plant. But apparently it doesn't affect the height, which is kind of sad. I don't that because I couldn't reject the null hypothesis after I did that t-test. But yeah, that was pretty much my project that I did. Well, I'll probably see you later that my hypothesis, I couldn't accept it since I couldn't reject the null, so it doesn't decrease the height of the plants.